Welcome to the Sober Unicorn. We are a gay-hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I am your host, Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Well, hey, everybody. It's Holden back here again with the Sober Unicorn. Hope everybody's having an incredible day, and if you're not, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us here at the Sober Unicorn or to anybody that shares their social media here on the platform. So today we have a very special friend of mine. His name is Brian. Well, hello, Brian.
Hey, Holden.
How are you doing today?
I'm blessed.
Good, good. Well, so Brian and I actually met shortly after I moved to Florida. I kind of shared within a meeting that I was struggling, wanting to use, and everything like that. And Brian kind of took me to the side, talked to me, and kind of forced his friendship upon me. But no, we talk every single day. He's been a huge integral part of my recovery here in the city of Florida or the state of Florida. So I wanted to bring him on and kind of share his story, talk about his addiction, and just the chaos of everything. So I will let you take it away, Brian, and kind of let everybody know who you are and what the fuck happened.
Hey, everybody. I'm Brian. I'm a recovering addict, not a recovered addict. I'm a recovering addict. Just to give you a little backstory, I'm one of three children. I grew up in a very privileged home, pretty much had everything I wanted. Always felt like something was missing, though. I had difficulties with self-esteem. I was picked on in school. And I kind of like always compared myself to both my brothers. I had a brother that was very good and he was a high achiever academically. And then I had a younger brother that was really into sports, excelled in basketball really well. And then there was me. I was just like kind of stuck in the middle. Um, Very first time I used a substance, I want to say I was around 12 years old. Kind of kind of felt that slowness in my mind. Everything slowed down. I stopped thinking as much. I kind of felt comfortable within my own skin. And from there on, high school typical thing. I used recreationally. Um, Kind of realized I had a problem more towards the end of my high school years. I was using every day before school. I was pretty much smoking weed like it was crack. Um, I ended up in my first treatment facility at the young age of 17. That's how I was introduced to 12-step programs and kind of gave me like a little bit of knowledge. I felt like I was at a place though. I would go to meetings and I was 17 years old. And a lot of the people in the meetings were a lot older than me. I had a hard time relating to them, but I stuck with it for about 20 months. I graduated high school clean and sober. I went to prom clean and sober, and I went into halfway living, sober living, right after I got out of high school, and I did that. I was still doing the deal. And then when I started college, is like really like where things started to get out of control. I thought that I didn't have a problem with drugs or alcohol and that it was just a phase. And I would convince myself, at 17, like, how do you really have a problem with drugs other than your parents having a problem with it? So I continued to try different substances and things really got out of hand when I started doing opiates. The first time I did them, I had no idea that pills were addicting and that they were you get the same type of sickness as you do from heroin when you stop using them. So, in South Florida, it really wasn't hard to get a hold of pills. And that became the love of my life. I started slowly like losing interest in things like my friends, my family. And it was like, after a matter of weeks of doing it, the only thing on my mind was how am I going to get and use more? And eventually I got into a car accident and, Florida was like the Wild West down here. I was seeing anywhere from 3 to 5 doctors a week getting a prescription for my drug of choice. Back then, I believe it was oxycodone and oxycontin. And My job was waking up every morning. I would have a little notebook. I would keep track of what doctor I went to on what date, what pharmacy I filled at, because I didn't want to get arrested for doctor shopping. And I slowly started to lose everything. Like, my friends wanted nothing to do with me, and I was isolating from them anyway. My parents caught on. They knew what time it was. They knew exactly what I was doing, and I just continued in a downward spiral. And this lasted for about 4 years. I don't want to say I was homeless, but like, I didn't have a permanent residence. I was couch surfing. I was staying on people's sofas. I was living in and out of hotel rooms, and it just kept getting worse. I ended up in a couple of situations where I tried to kill myself. I tried to get off of drugs and try to get off of opiates, and I just didn't see a way out. So I woke up one morning, and this is after days of being in a funk and in depression, and I decided to go into my garage and I tried to hang myself. I was 24 years old. No one was home in the house except for my younger brother, and he was asleep. I made sure he was asleep, and I was in the garage, strangling, pretty much hanging from an extension cord. And out of nowhere, my brother woke up, came in there, and and cut the rope, pretty much the extension cord. And I ended up in a mental asylum for, I think it was like 5 or 6 days. Um, I kind of got assigned like a therapist to go to and a psychiatrist. I was diagnosed with bipolar, manic depression, PTSD, anxiety, a bunch of different disorders. And when I left there, I went right back to doing the same things. And a couple months later, I ended up back in the same place, but it was for I purposely tried to overdose. So throughout that time, I've been arrested a couple times as well. And there was a situation where I went to the doctor that day. I came home, and I was using, and I passed out, and I woke up and my dad was taking my bottle of oxys. And I love my parents to death. I really do. But anyone who was getting between me and my drugs, it didn't matter. Like, I didn't care if I loved you. I would step right over you as you're taking your last breath to grab my bottle. And I didn't like that my dad took my bottle, and I was chasing him around. I was out the front yard, and on my way out the house to chase him, I grabbed a butter knife, and I was screaming at him to give me back my prescription. And me and him were wrestling around in the grass. I threw the butter knife kind of near him, and my neighbor called the cops, and I ended up in jail. And that was like my first. Oh, I ended up in jail, but I went to court, and I was still really, really intoxicated because I was in front of a judge within like 3 hours of being arrested, and I was given no bond, and I flipped out on the judge, and I didn't like his attitude and how he was talking to me. So as I walked away, I told him to suck my dick. Seemed like a good idea at the time, and I walked off, and he was like, "Hey, you get back here, get back here!" And I'm screaming to the judge, "I don't want to talk to you." And being intoxicated and upset, I went back up in front of him, and he's like, "What did you say to me?" I'm like, "I called you a cocksucker." Um, so long story short, he sentences me, I think it was 60 days in jail, and I still kept running my mouth. And he asked if I wanted to apologize, and I said, "No, you're still a cocksucker." And he gave me another 60 days. So that was kind of like a sign from God, and it was kind of a good thing. It was a horrible thing for my parents and for my family, because it was all over Channel 4 News. It was on YouTube. I had friends while I was in jail writing me letters telling me that, "Hey, you're fucking awesome." But really, like, I was an idiot. And so the one thing that happened positive out of this whole situation, um, I went to jail and I actually detoxed for the first time in my life. And I'd been using opiates for 4 years, and on top of that, also taking benzos, and it was fucking rough. It was really rough. Like I was, like how you see somebody withdrawing from opiates in the movies. Like I was sweating, I was on the floor, I was throwing up, I was shitting. It was just, it was, it was hell. Um, I was delirious. I remember calling my mom while I was in jail. I told her I got a new apartment, and I told her to bring me my clothes and a TV. I'm allowed to have it. She's like, "Sweetie, you're in jail." I'm like, "No, I got a new apartment. What are you talking about?" Like that's the insanity in it. Like I actually thought that I found a place to live and I was in jail. So I detoxed in there, and I remember being in jail, and I think I was there like 70 something days, and I told myself there was no way that I was going to go back to doing opiates and pills. I'm like, that shit is over with. I'm done with it. I'm not. This is what happens when I do it. I don't want to go back to jail again. And I got out of jail, and I told myself I'm just going to smoke weed and drink beer. And thinking that I had the only solution to all my problems was that right there. And I started drinking when I got out. And at first it was every night, or it was every other night, then it turned into every night, and then it was every single day. Like I was drinking from the time I woke up till I went to sleep. And I was living with my parents at the time, and my mom, my parents kept getting on me. They're like, "You need to go to AA, you need to stop." um I told them I'm not robbing anybody, I'm not overdosing, I'm just fucking drinking and smoking weed. So my mind at the time, I think that everything that I'm doing is all right. I'm not realizing that I'm really hurting my family and the people that love me and that actually care about me, because I'm so selfish and I'm so in it that like I just keep going. And I there were a couple times where I didn't drink right when I woke up, and I had seizures. I got into a car accident. I almost killed myself. I almost killed somebody else. Um, when that happened, my license got taken away, and the state, because I had a seizure, they took away my license for 5 years. Eventually, from all of the drinking, I ended up in the hospital several different times. I was diagnosed a type 2 diabetic. And I remember being in the hospital and them taking my blood, and then them coming back to me. They're like, "Your liver's fine. You don't have cirrhosis, but you gotta take care of your diabetes better." And I'm like, "What did you just say? Are you sure you did the right test?" And they're like, "Yeah, sweetie, we ran it 3 times." So I didn't really take the lesson that they told me there. I continued to drink, and I kept ending up back in the hospital. I remember I had this really, really nice old doctor, and he's like, "Listen, you're going to lose an arm or a leg if you keep drinking." And at that time, my roommate that I drank with every day was diagnosed with cirrhosis. So I stopped drinking on my own. I wasn't completely off of everything. I was still, smoking and doing other things here and there. But in 2015, I was on my way home from work one night, and I got a phone call, and it was somebody from Comedy Central, and they were reaching out to me. They wanted me to come do something on Tosh.O, and I thought it was one of my friends messing with me, so I hung up the phone. And the reason I'm really mentioning this is because, like, out of my stupidity, something like this happened, and I thought that I was the shit. And in my sick mind, I'm like, well, if I keep doing stupid shit, I can make money off of it like I just did. So I continue to live the same lifestyle, just wild, crazy, out of control. Um, Eventually, I'm driving home from work another day, and I'm at a gas station. I'm pumping gas, and I'll never forget. This guy came up to me, and he handed me a bag and a phone number. and I hadn't done opiates in 6 years. And I knew how hard it was to get off of them last time, but like my mind is like, you know what? Nobody's ever given you heroin for free. Um, so I did some, and I remember feeling like shit. Like I remember feeling guilty and having this sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. And like I pictured my mom, I pictured my dad, and halfway through the bag, I threw it out. And I remember calling my parents, and I came clean. I'm like, yo, I fucked up. Like I started doing heroin. And within 2 weeks, I'm back in that realm of insanity, chaos, and destruction. Um, I totaled my car. I almost killed somebody else again. I ended up in the hospital, and the doctor that saw me knew me from a previous event where I had to get stitches. And when I came to, she's like, "Listen, I saw you 2 months ago. Like, you look like complete shit. Running your blood. You can tell me now what you've been doing, or we can find out." My parents were there, so like I came clean, and I was just on this path where like I could not stop using, and it was like the same results. Like I'd end up Baker acted in a mental asylum. Um, I would end up in jail, and I was in jail like every couple months. Like I thought that it was a normal routine. I thought everybody has bad luck that uses drugs and just ends up in jail, and it continued to happen. Um, and finally, like enough was enough for me. I was tired. Like at the end of my using, like I was waking up, I was smoking crack. It was constantly doing heroin. I was trying to get off every way I could. I was on methadone. I was on Xanax, and I just got tired of it. And for the last couple months I was using, I would be driving to go cop, and I would tell myself like, "This is it. This is the last fucking time. Like, there's no more after this." And I reached out to one of my friends that I used to use with. I saw something on Facebook. His name is Chris K. I'm not gonna say his last name, but Cough But I reached out to him and I was like, dude, like, how are you? Or like, what are you doing? Are you smoking weed? Are you on Suboxone? And he's like, no, dude, I'm not on anything. And he's like, what's going on? And at this point, like, overdoses are on a weekly thing for me because I'm just doing straight fentanyl. And every morning I was like waking up like I wanted to die, and I told him this. And he asked me if I was willing to get some help. And I told him yeah. But it was like a 2 month process of me actually checking myself into a treatment facility, because they would call me. I didn't have an overdose that day. I had money. I was fine. And it got to the point where I was so over it. I was willing to just fucking give up, either kill myself or, give recovery an honest shot. And I'm glad that I did. I went into treatment. I was rebellious as shit. I was I was definitely I was definitely a fucking problematic client there. I was always doing something sneaky, but I was the type of person when I was in treatment. Like I talked about how I still wanted to use, and I talked about how I thought I still could use. Maybe not my drug of choice, but other substances. And I started going to meetings and listening. I'll never forget. I went to this one meeting. I shared about how I still wanted to use. I just didn't want to hurt my mom anymore and my dad. And the next week, I went back to that meeting, and these two people came up to me and they remembered my name. And dude, that was big for me, man. That meant the world. Like they were actually listening to what I was saying. And I completed treatment, and those guys from that meeting I still talk to today. They're huge members of my support group. Um, I made that my home group after that. Everyone was telling me to get a home group, so I got a home group. And I started to do the deal. Like any suggestions that people told me to do, I started doing. They told me 90 meetings in 90 days. Shit, I was going to 2 meetings a day for my first 4 or 5 months. And, getting off of everything and trying this path that worked for other people and that they're telling me to do, it started to fucking work. I was like, damn, like they're kind of right about some things. Once I was able to get past the sickness, and believe me, I was fucking sick for 3 weeks. I'm talking no sleep, sweating like hell, dope sneezes. It was complete hell. But like I struggled to get through it, but I kept telling myself if I can just fucking feel normal, that's all I want. I promise I'll never do this. And it was amazing. Like I was never a spiritual person. I never prayed, never believed in God. And I started to like just pray to whatever was out there. I can't even say what it is. I can't tell you the exact moment, but like I remember just saying whatever the hell is out there, just help me. And I remember like relieving feeling right after that. It wasn't huge, but it wasn't small. It was just enough to be noticed. Like something was listening to me. And I continued to go to meetings. I started doing service. I started chairing meetings. I got involved in the community. Um, I built a great relationship with my sponsor, and at the same time, like my life started to come together. Um, the place that I went through, I kind of wanted to work there, but I didn't want to tell anybody because I was like embarrassed that they're gonna be like, "Oh no, it's never gonna happen." But I continued to stay clean, and like my life started to get better. Um, you know, I got my family back, and I remember telling my mom once I got home, I'm like, "It's good to have you guys back." And she told me, she's like, "We've always been here. We've always been here." And like today, the smallest things, like my mom telling me that that she's proud of me and that she loves me, like I tear up, and that's better than any high I've ever had. Like my life today, like I'm responsible, I'm productive, like I have a career, and all this shit is from staying clean. Like I wouldn't have anything. Everything that I have is from like my path in recovery. And I'm one of those people, like I realize recovery's for today, like tomorrow's not guaranteed. And I'm just as subject to relapse as anybody else. But if I keep doing the things that I need to do and that I've continued to do this far, I have a better chance, a better shot at continuing to stay clean. And like one of the greatest gifts is honestly like being able to help other people. Um, I'm not going to say like I was a total piece of shit while I was using. I wasn't a great person, but like I wasn't a total piece of shit. But like the person I am today, like my older brother didn't want anything to do with me for years. He calls me to ask me advice on is kids that are in their early 20s. He's like, I don't know what I should do. Like, I think they're doing this. I think you're doing that. And for him to call me and even like want to talk to me about that, it's an amazing feeling. Um, it's I've had some really, really great experiences in recovery. Um, I have a younger brother who's in prison. I'm able to be there for him. Like I actually went to go visit him for the first time since he's been in prison. He was in there 10 years. And when I had 90 days, I went and I saw him. And then 2 weeks later, I went back and I saw him. And then I continued to see him up until COVID happened. But, I write him letters. I encourage him. He's one of us. He's definitely an addict. He's still in addiction. But, I'm very sympathetic. I don't enable, but like, I'm there as a form of support for him. And, it was always a dream of mine when growing up, like I'm a huge surfer, that I wanted to go to Hawaii and surf. And I had plenty of opportunities to do that in my life. And I was just never able to do it because I couldn't risk getting on a plane and not having heroin for a week. Like that, it stopped me from doing everything. Like drugs controlled my life completely. And like having that freedom today, it's priceless. Like I wake up every morning and I'm grateful just to feel normal. Like I'm clean. I'm coming up on 4 years in July, and still every morning I wake up and I'm grateful to not be sick. Finding gratitude in every situation that I can. It definitely it helps me become a better person, and the steps helped me discover like who I am. I dissected my entire life and learned what behaviors I need to change, how to control my actions better. I react differently as a person today. I'm not perfect by all means. I still flip shit. Don't get me wrong, but I'm definitely a lot better off than I was, and it's insane because I often look back and I think, especially close to a medallion, I'm like, I can remember the day before I got clean, like how I felt, how much I hated life, how I'd wake up from an overdose and I was like, fuck, why am I still here? Like I would get upset when they would revive me. And it's like today, like all I want to do is live. All I want to do is be happy. All I want to do is be a better son, be a better uncle, be a better brother. Like those are like my goals today. Um, and it's funny talking about goals. When I got clean, my sponsor, he made me write down like 5 goals that I want, 5 realistic goals. I'm not talking about like driving a Lambo down Collins with a hot chick with implants sitting next to me. It was like 5 realistic goals, and every single one of them I hit by like 5 months. And it's something I do every year. Like I come up with new goals. Like my career, I've had like 3 promotions since I've been there. I'm employable today. Like I actually work at a treatment facility. It's funny because like when I tell my friends that I grew up with that, and they saw me through the good and the bad, they're like, "Bro, that's crazy." Like they can't believe it. Um, I've been able to help so many of my friends that were struggling, the ones that are still alive, with finding them help and being there for them. And it truly is a blessing. And when people always ask me like, "How are you doing?" Like that's my automatic response. I'm blessed. You know, like for some reason God chose to save me. I've got plenty of friends that didn't make that, but
For
life is good. Just glad I gave myself a shot.
So there's two things I kind of want to question about. So you stated you were Baker acted a couple times. So of course, which is essentially a forced detox, almost. Anybody doesn't know what a Baker Act, essentially it's like the 5150. It means like bitch you crazy, and we're gonna like hold you for a few days so you're not a harm to yourself or anybody else. Um, you've been to a private detox facility, and then you've been to jail and detox. So what would you recommend to people? Would you prefer to detox in a facility or would you prefer to detox in jail?
It depends on well, both of them. To be honest, man, jail, like you ain't getting out. You know what I mean? Versus a detox, you can walk out the door. A detox is definitely the more comfortable route and more therapeutic. So I would actually go with detox, man.
And then the other,
Definitely.
I mean, I never had to get a detox, thankfully, and yet, because I mean, trust and believe, if I continued what I was doing, I would have needed it. Um, and I haven't been to jail either. So I mean, again, if I would have gotten caught, I would have definitely fucking been in jail with the amount of blackout driving I was doing. But the other thing is talking about the brown bag, you being handed a brown bag and a phone number. So when that kind of kicked off your heroin addiction, like did that become your dealer for heroin?
Yes. Yes, that was my go-to person. Um I was his guinea pig. I used to take him to go pick up dope down to Miami in my car. He would bring it out. I would tell him whether it was good or bad, and then I would drive him back. And if shit went wrong, he was running out of the car, and I was taking the heat because that's how sick I was of my addiction. I was willing to fucking do that just to get a little bit of dope,
I mean,
just to get.
what was it about you or your appearance that was like, hand me a bag of heroin?
Uh, bro, I was in the hood. Like I was in Pompano over on Atlantic and Powerline. Like white boy over there, they think you're looking for it. I hope that didn't sound racist.
No.
But like but like I was in a nice car. It was late at night. I was there and he just approached me. And dude, it's like the stupid shit that I did, like when I was really hurting and somebody wanted dope and I could get it for him, I would tell him, he would hand it to me. I put it in my pocket and I tell him to punch me and start kicking my ass. That way I can run in the car and say that I got robbed. Like
Jesus.
that's the extreme. If I showed up to him and I was like $50 short for a gram, which is like $200 at the time, I would tell him, I'm like, bro, you give that to me, I'll let you slap the shit out of me in front of all your friends. Like those are the extremes. And you know what I mean? I always did stupid shit. I did. And you know, it's looking back at it, it was just fucking sick. Like
That's insane. I would never think about doing that. Um,
yeah.
so the thing is, you said you came from a very loving home, and as you mentioned before, it was privileged. So many people that go into addiction or even wanting to attempt the use of drugs, many of them are running away from trauma, and stuff like that, or coping with the trauma. So like coming from a loving home that you said is privileged, like what were you running from to use?
Probably myself. I never felt like I was good enough. Like I said, I compared myself to my brothers. I was picked on a lot. Um, I had middle child syndrome. I'm the middle child. So it was not just that, man. I grew up in an area where it's a bunch of white privileged kids that our parents threw money at us on Fridays and Saturdays. And that opened up, you know what I mean, opportunities to use. And you know, like I said, with pills down here, bro, like I must have had like 50 or 60 people's names in my phone that were straight just to buy oxys from at one point. So
That's
it was just,
insane.
dude, it kids down here I went to high school with that were in honors classes that weren't doing drugs in high school. They went into college, they started doing pills, and it was like the people that you never fucking expected. Like I was like, holy shit! I had a teacher that was fucking copping from one of the same dealers that I had. I couldn't believe it. An it was an epidemic before it was an epidemic down here. Like it was the oxys and all that shit. And there were pain clinics on every corner. Like it was everywhere, bro, everywhere.
Well, it's kind of. I the way I kind of view it is there comes a point in time where you kind of also get bored. The thing is, like, people say like celebrities and stuff, they have this excess of money, and it's just like, well, I'm over buying handbags and I'm over buying this. It's like, well, let's fucking just throw a lot of money on blow.
Yeah. Well,
Poor
that's the
Whitney
thing too.
Houston.
I never looked at money like currency or money. I saw 50 bucks and I saw a bag. Like, and it was like that since I was a kid with a bag of weed. If I had 50 bucks, it was, you know, it was a bag of weed. I never looked at money like, okay, let's see, I can go to the movies, I can do this with it, or I can go to a concert. It was like drugs. Like if I saw $100 bill, I didn't see the bill. I saw $100 worth of heroin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's crazy. Sometimes today when I see a lot of money in my bank account, I'm like, wow, that's that's easily a key and a half of fucking heroin right there. You know what I mean? And it's scary. It's kind of scary today to like, you know, be successful and have a career and have money in the bank and be like, wow, I can just fucking go do all this in a second. And that's when I call somebody. I call my sponsor. I'm like, damn, dude, I kept looking at my bank account. It's looking like it could be a fucking run and a half. And you know, he's able to talk me down. He's like, bro, you'll be dead by the first $200 you spend because
That is
that's
for sure because probably in the time that you were doing heroin, it was real heroin, and nowadays a lot of the heroin has fentanyl in it, or it's just pure fentanyl. So the thing is that that's unfortunate with addicts that were addicted to heroin or even addicted to fentanyl. Like if you go back out, your body is not used to that substance anymore, and that substance, let me tell you, is fucking killing everybody.
yeah, yeah. We see it all the time, and it's
Mm-hmm.
people that have been clean for a while. They go out one night, dude, and they're that's it. That's it.
And that's the thing is, I mean, anybody listening, like you have to understand, it's just like if you think you need to ask for help, ask because the next batch that you buy could be your last, and you never
Yeah,
know that like that mentality of just one more time could completely be the end all be all for you. I mean, I know I was during the end of my last relapse, that was me. It was just like I had that. I was just like, just one more night of getting high, and I'll flush it. One more night of getting high, and I'll flush it. And it lasted until the bag ran out, and I was moving to Florida, and I put myself into a situation here, job wise, living wise, that doesn't. I mean, yes, am I safe from a relapse? Hell no. But I put myself into a situation that like I kind of refuse to fail in life, and so my living is required. I have to stay clean to have this roof over my head. My job now, I'm in treatment as working in treatment as well. So it's like if I get high, like my job is gone, my housing is gone, I'd be fucked with no money. So, but like I said, like if you think you need help, you're never gonna get it unless you just ask for it. Don't wait until you're jailed. Because let me tell you, detoxing in jail is probably not the funnest fucking thing to go through. At least if you seek out treatment, you can get medication that'll help comfort you until you are able to get through that detox. So before we end the episode, Brian, is there anything that you haven't said that you would like to say to everybody?
Give yourself a chance. Like if you think you're struggling, you got nothing to lose by going and getting help. That was the greatest thing I ever did, was reach out to my friend. I see him because we both work we work at different places, but same industry. So I see him all the time and I talk to him all the time. I randomly text him. I'm like, bro, like you saved my life. And he's like, no, you saved it by asking me for help. So it's the best shot. Like you can live a normal life. My life is fucking completely amazing. The people that I have, and like my friends that are there for me through thick and thin, through anything I go through. And everyone is capable of recovery and everybody deserves it. No addict needs to die. It says that in the literature, and it's true. Like if you're not sure, go to a 12-step meeting, just listen. There's a little pamphlet at them and it'll say, who's an addict? Answer those questions. That helps a lot of people. And also, like, honestly, what helped me was stop comparing myself to others. Stop looking at the differences and look at the similarities. Because I'm the type of addict that never stuck a needle in my arm. And I let that stop me getting fucking clean from a real long time. So,
other than that, the same way. I was like, well, I'm not having to wake up and drink liquor. Although by like 3-4 p.m. is when I started getting sick and stuff like that. But I always told myself, if I don't drink in the morning, if I don't have to take a vodka drink to work, I'm okay. Meth, it was like I'm a big girl, so the thing is, I always like, well, I'm not 20 pounds, I'm not 100 pounds, I'm still thick. So because I stuck a needle in my arm several times, so I did get to that point. But I always told myself, like, well, if you're not having to wake up and drink, if you're not having to do this, then you're okay. But it came to a point where I would never get high alone. It was always one of those things where I was like with somebody else, until it wasn't, and I was really locked in my room by myself to get high. Not to enjoy the high anymore, but because I had to get high so I wouldn't get sick. So but thank you so much, Brian, for coming on the show. I do very much appreciate it.
No problem, Holden. I love you, bro.
Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hit that follow button to be notified about new episodes every week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at The Sober Unicorn Podcast or on our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. There you will find our episodes as well as our very own sober-owned shop featuring products from small businesses that are sober-owned. And remember, everyone, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.